All right, day 3, SEC Media Days, getting thick. Heat turned up to 1,000 degrees.
How's it already day 3?
I know.
I feel like I've been here a week already.
Yeah, I know. It's just how it is. At third media day, we're kind of so ingrained in it now. We're kind of used to the flow of the motion or the ocean, whatever you want to call it. But we're here with Jordan Rodgers, former SEC quarterback, current SEC Network, ESPN college football analyst. Jordan, it's always great to see you, buddy.
It's good to be here in person, boys. We've done it virtually a couple times.
Doesn't hit the same.
You guys don't look as good in person, but
again,
you look good on TV.
We tried to trick you for as long as possible.
All right, cut the interview.
This is a great time.
Get him out of here.
Lane's trying to get on The Bachelor, so he's probably just going to suck up to you the whole time. But Jordan, again, obviously the storylines are plenty this year. It seems like we've kind of hit everything, but a couple teams that we really haven't honed in on. A team like Kentucky with Mark Stoops, who I still don't think gets enough credit. Compared to John Calipari, I think he does more with less than anybody, and Calipari does less with more than anybody. But that's a story for another media day. But when you look at Devin Leary, a lot of hype coming, with NC State last year. Really didn't live up to it for extenuating circumstances. Do you think Kentucky has a chance to be sneaky once again this year? Are they going to be kind of back to themselves up front, which really kind of got them where they were to elevate themselves from, the condos to the suburbs?
Oh, I like that. I am really high on the Kentucky offense. I think they did a really good job and we'll get to Devin in a second, but bringing Ray Davis in, because obviously they lose Chris Rodriguez. So that's a big part of their identity, right? Got to be able to at least run the football. I think Ray, shorter back than Chris is, but he's big. He's a physical guy. So I think that's good. But when it comes to Devin, interesting story. I was doing the Kentucky Pro Day watching Will Levis, and I've known Jordan Palmer for quite some time. So I was just kind of picking his brain about what they've been working on, some of the freaky things that Will can do with his arm talent. And Jordan goes, it was, he's good. He's going to be good at the next level. We were cleaning up a few things. He goes, but this next guy that Kentucky's got, Devin, he's going to be better. He's going to be a dude. Now, I know Will had his ups and downs, but from a physical standpoint, Devin is as talented as anybody.
He throws maybe one of the prettiest balls.
Rip. Yeah. I mean, when you watch him on finish, that ball jumps out of his hand. And I remember back in the NFL, everyone always says, it jumps off the screen. There's not many guys that actually do. I remember Earl Thomas jumped off the screen because he looked like he was moving at a different speed. Devin's ball feels like that. Yeah. It just jumps off the screen. So I think they're really underrated at receiver. If you go back 2 years ago when Liam was there with Will in his first year, Barryon Brown was a true freshman. Dane Key was a true freshman. Super talented. And Kentucky hadn't been able to get guys like that outside Wandale and Lynn Bowden.
Yep.
So those two guys are super talented. Tavion Robinson, super talented. I think last year, for a lot of reasons, partially because of the offensive line, partially I think because the guy calling the plays.
I agree with that.
I think from a communication and teaching standpoint, wasn't the same as Liam. They took a step back. This group is really good. I think very, very highly of Liam Cohen. I think he's one of the best coordinators in the entire country when it comes to college football. So I think they're going to take a huge step. And defense is always good, right? Yeah. Kentucky, I remember there was some stat going around that the only defenses in the top 5 every year for the last however many years. Kentucky's one of those teams. Yeah. They're going to be solid on defense. If they can be consistent on offense, not turn the football over, not be just a mess up front like they were last year, they're going to surprise some people.
I hope so, because I really like what Mark Stoops has going there. And then looking at the West, we talk about the question marks at Alabama. Can LSU repeat again in year 2 under Brian Kelly? New coach at Auburn.
How do you guys feel about LSU and Alabama?
Here's and I actually let off our show this morning. Yeah, he's
wait, what?
He's his wife's Richard Todd's daughter.
Oh,
yeah. David's a Michigan and Alabama.
Yeah, David's
tough time.
Tough time.
We're getting an idea who's wearing the pants here.
Yeah,
huh?
that's exactly.
100%. What I'm told, okay, George?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, the way I look at it's like this. I do think LSU, in my opinion, and I like to say my predictions till the end of fall camp. I need to see who gets hurt. I need to see who wins what job. But I think LSU right now, gun to my head, I'm taking LSU to repeat in the West. I know they got to go to Bama.
How graphic.
I know. Look, I'll get super graphic. I'm surprised I'm not a graphics person. But I love what they're doing, returning both their 4 offensive linemen.
Yeah,
2
huge.
tackles, both NFL tackles. Emery and Will, I think, are both NFL tackles. Malik Neighbors, I think, is one of the most underrated skill players that don't get talked about. He's security blanket on 3rd down. And then, obviously, Mason Taylor there. Jaden Daniels. I love Jaden's game. When they started utilizing the deep third last year, it changed them offensively. Yeah. He's able to use his legs more. They're able to take care of the underneath game more. Run game got better. Defensively, I'll never question LSU's athletes. I like what they did in the portal, like the guy they brought in from Texas. Harold Perkins is, basically Oppenheimer when it comes to explosiveness. But sleeping
Ooh,
on
but.
Alabama is not a good business to be in.
Agreed.
Nick Saban doesn't have to manipulate or brainwash anybody this year into them thinking that they're being slept on a little bit. I just don't trust the quarterback position right now, and they can't bully people the way they used to, where they could just run the ball, give you peanut butter and jelly, run play action, and beat you 31-17. But I like LSU right now. But my question to you is Arkansas. Because we always talk about, and it is, Sam Pittman's a great fit at Arkansas, right? It just makes sense, right? It's like waking up in the morning and drinking coffee. It just makes sense. But eventually the honeymoon ends. Eventually you got to win something. KJ Jefferson coming back. Dan Enos coming as the offensive coordinator, going to be a different flavor ice cream than what Kendall Briles was serving out there. And I think it's going to help KJ because, 90% of the offense was KJ either on the scramble drill or running the ball. He couldn't make it through a season healthy.
We're throwing it deep.
We're throwing it deep. That's exactly right. You lose Trey Knox, who's a big piece last year, I thought. If Arkansas goes 6-6 again this year, do you maybe start hearing a little bit of, hey, I'm not okay, you're not okay, but it's kind of okay?
Yes, only because the SEC, right? You have a 2-year window to continue to show that you can win games and compete at the highest level. But I'll say I don't think so. I think it's very possible that could be the result this year.
Yeah.
Like their weapon, they don't have many weapons on the outside. And like we just mentioned, the offense is going to change a little bit with Dan. But last year it was KJ running, physical running attack, and jump balls on the outside a lot. And you lose Matt Landers as well, who was a big-time tall target on the outside that had speed. And KJ was good at that. But it's going to be different. He's not going to be, everyone's talking about, he's going to be under center. Maybe a little bit, but that's not KJ's game. You're going to adapt the offense to what he does best. So I think we're going to still see a little bit of flavor of what we saw last year. But with the pieces they've lost, I do think that's a realistic ending for them is 6-6, 7-5, something like that. But I do think it's not representative of Sam Pittman. I do think he is the right guy for the job. I think he's bought himself a couple-year runway no matter what happens this year unless you go out there and go 2-10.
And I hope it works out. I love Sam Pittman. I love what he brings to the league.
Well, what's hard about evaluating quarterbacks is if you're just in a vacuum right now, KJ's, I'm talking about him as one of the top 3 guys in the SEC. But if you go projections, I'm like, I don't think he's going to put up those kind of numbers and have that kind of success just because what is around him and what they lost.
I agree.
I know you mentioned it earlier, and I know we saw Palpatine walk by, also known as Nick Saban.
I've been watching your career with great interest.
Tyler Buckner transfers in.
Yeah.
All right. You have Ty Simpson, you have guys, but how worried are you for this quarterback room for Alabama?
I'm concerned, not worried, only because, and it was interesting, I did the spring game there, so I got to talk to Nick and Tommy about, what's really funny is the first time, that was probably the first real media opportunity Tommy had.
Yeah.
And what's so funny is the first time you talk to a coach that's under Nick Saban, there's just they're not sure what they can say.
I don't blame them.
And I'll get to what you asked in just a second, but it reminded me of a funny story. The first time I did a game with Bill O'Brien as the OC, we did a Zoom meeting. So I talked to him, but I like to meet guys face to face because I don't want to be saying good and bad things about them. I want to make sure that they see me.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. So I went down on the field, hour and a half before the game. They're playing Louisiana Monroe or something like that, right? And so I'm just talking to Bill, hey, good to meet you, man, just picking his brain a little bit. And he kind of starts, we're talking for 5-10 minutes. He starts getting a little fidgety, looking around. And I'm like, he's like, hey, I got to go. If Nick sees me, he's gonna rip my ass. Yeah. I'm like, I've been working with the SEC a long time, not some random. Also, just you were an NFL head coach, and you are literally scared that your head coach is going to see you talking to the guy calling the game an hour and a half before you play Louisiana Monroe.
That's wild.
So
that's power. That is power.
So it was fun talking to Tommy. I think the reason I'm not panicked, because I do think they're good, they're not great. I don't think anybody in that room is going to be great. I do think it's either Ty Simpson or Tyler Buckner. I think you bring in Buckner because you realize this is the offense that we have to run. Mm-hmm. Jalen Milroe has the wow throws and he has the wow throws, not good, right? They can't live with that. They need a distributor at the quarterback position because I do believe they are actually really talented at wide receiver. They're super deep. They don't have the first-round draft picks that they used to having, but
it's crazy.
Those 4 dudes that were true freshmen last year. Kendrick Law is like a Debo Samuel type dude. I think he's going to have a much bigger role this year. Obviously, Kobe Prentice and Isaiah Bond can roll. Those dudes, I think, are going to take a big step. Emmanuel Henderson's raw, super talented. You bring back Burton, you bring back Ja'Cory Brooks. Malik Benson's a name to watch. So I think they got 7 or 8 guys that are really good. And you just got to get them the ball. You got a guy that can just flip it out, get it to him. I was pleasantly surprised watching Tyler Buckner's film. I thought he manipulated his arm angle in the quick game RPO better than I maybe thought he would. He's not a great deep ball thrower.
Yeah.
He throws with good anticipation in some of the over routes and some of those intermediate throws. I think it's going to be Ty Simpson to start the year. I do think that battle could go a few weeks into the season as they figure out who can just make the least amount of mistakes, right? Because that's the
Kind
type
of Michigan,
of offense.
Michigan,
Totally.
the way it was.
That's the
with
type of
Peyton.
offense that they need to have is just be a game manager. And that gets like a bad rep in today's days, but I love it. So you're doing what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, what quarterback is not a game manager? Yeah. That's why I think it's the most. It's one of the worst terms in sports. It's like saying, "Oh, well, this pitcher, he's a game manager.
He just throws strikes and gets guys out.
Yeah, he's
a
strike
he's not striking
thrower.
out 20 a game or 15 a game, but he's
I
only
hate
giving up
that
one
term.
run.
It's like, oh yeah, this guy hitting in the major leagues. Oh well, he's a professional hitter. Well, yeah, he is. That's why he's playing for the Braves.
Man, let's talk about the quarterback room at Florida. Last season, Anthony Richardson showed flashes of brilliance against Utah. It wasn't pretty down the stretch for the Gators. He still goes number 4 overall in the NFL draft based off that potential. Bring in Graham Mertz, completely different player. A lot of people have reservations about him being the starting quarterback at Florida. Not only do you have to navigate the SEC schedule this season, but in the non-conference, you're going to get Utah again on the road
at Utah
and Florida State.
Is that week 1 or 2?
I think it's 1.
Week
Yeah, I think
one.
it's
Week one.
Oh,
Yeah, guess what? Humidity won't save you
brutal.
this time.
Then
Altitude.
Then the SEC schedule, and then you end against your rival Florida State, who many people have in the college football playoff this year. Is Florida going to miss a bowl game this year?
There's a good chance, honestly. Like Graham Mertz has played a lot of football, which I think is good. But he's also, when you watch the film, he makes poor decisions. He forces throws. He turns the ball over more than you need. I think they're returning one starter up front. Like, they get both their studs back at running back, which is great. They're going to have to be able to run the football. But when you miss the pieces you do up front and you have a quarterback that has been inclined to turn the football over or force some throws, those two things are not a good narrative.
I just hope they're patient with Billy. Because, I mean, I hope they are. Because 24 is even worse.
I love Billy.
2024 is even
He's
worse.
recruiting really well.
Yeah.
I think he's changing the culture there, which was needed. I love Dan Mullen, but I do believe that the culture needed to change there, and I think it has for the better under Billy.
I think it's a lot easier to say that now, but when you've
they'll be
already lost, when you're like 4-4 and you're down 31-0 against Georgia on the road, it's going to be a lot
Can't
harder
lose
to
to Vandy
say to
again.
It's gonna be
keep
loud.
No
them.
offense.
No offense taken.
Jordan Rodgers isn't stepping out of that tongue.
Expectations at Vanderbilt, baby.
Hey,
Expectations
I
at
think they can make a
Vandy.
bowl game this year.
I think they
What say
could.
you?
I hope they do. I
Well,
like Clark.
They got 4 straight non-cons. Now, at UNLV and at Wake, those aren't like easy games, but like if they start out 3-1,
They got Hawaii week
Hang
one.
on.
Hawaii
Listen,
week one.
It is taking.
Let's go.
It is taking all my strength not to take all the money in my savings and put it on Vandy minus 18.5 against Hawaii. And I'm a big Timmy Chang guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
You are.
I remember.
what does that mean? That was
yeah.
Look, I like.
He's a huge
Throw it
Timmy
6
Chang guy.
times a game.
Colt Brennan. I'll go down the list, man. Hawaii used to be fun to watch.
Yeah.
But now, Jordan, last question for you right here. Joe Milton,
Yeah.
one of the biggest hinge players. That's what I'm calling him. Him, Drew Aller from Penn State. There's a couple of that if they come through,
If he's
you
him.
could have a huge season. But got a great fastball. But there's a lot of pitchers out there that got great fastballs that can't locate the changeup or the curve. Developing touch. We talked with David Cutcliffe about this. I think it is so hard to put that into somebody.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen it from Joe Milton. Had a good bowl game. There's extenuating circumstances. Is that something you think somebody can just learn, like over a year?
Feel.
No.
I don't either.
But here's the thing. Okay, so I'm going to say that. Also, like, I was not a strong arm quarterback, right? I mean, God, if you gave me his arm, I'd probably still be playing because I had everything else except for that kind of arm.
Well, like I'd send you to Ukraine.
Totally.
This thing in like 30 minutes.
I will say what he has improved is the accuracy in the intermediate. And I think that's what Hendon was so good at is you see the deep throws in this offense. You're like, that's what they live and die by. It's like, yes, but where they really hurt teams is those slants, those in-breaking short dig routes where Hendon put it 6 inches out in front.
Yeah.
That receiver didn't break stride. They turned the corner and they were gone.
Yeah.
Like those are the most important throws in this offense. I don't believe Joe all of a sudden has this touch on those throws, but I do believe some things he's done with his base when I talk to Joey Halsley about how they've tightened up his base a little bit, using his lower body a little bit more. You do get a little more consistent with those throws. He's still ripping them, but he is more consistent in the placement of those throws. So I'm going to say no, you don't just overnight or even in the span of a year all of a sudden learn to throw with touch. Mike Leach always used to say, like, You're accurate or you're not.
I'm a firm believer
And there are
in that,
variants. I mean, you can get a little bit more accurate because your decision making gets better, right? But you either are really accurate or you're not. So I think Joe's decision making, the timing at which he's seeing those things is helping his accuracy there. But I'll say this. Joe is the most physically gifted quarterback I've ever seen. Yeah. Arm strength is not a prerequisite to playing quarterback. It sure helps.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
If he puts together the type of season that he can, he will be the Anthony Richardson of next year, for better or worse.
Yeah. Well, combine, I mean, his pro day.
No, he'll be a top 5 pick.
I mean, you talk about, but
again,
I mean, Anthony Richardson was a top 5 pick,
right? I mean, you don't those type of arms and that talent don't grow on trees. Yeah. If he'll have better film than Anthony, right? Just by virtue of the offense, he'll have better numbers, he'll have more throws that you go, okay, wow, okay, I know the offense is a little different, but Anthony didn't have great tape.
No,
and he still did. So if Joe puts together a good year and they win 10-11, which I think they should, he's going to be in that conversation as a top 10 pick, and he'll be in the Heisman conversation.
And not only that, if he can do it, they'll have a shot against Georgia at home.
No doubt.
I think
Dante Thornton was a big ad for them too, because like my big question mark, Brew McCoy gets a lot of attention. I like Brew. He's a solid receiver.
He's a big physical.
But he's like a 2. He's like a solid number 2 on an SEC roster. Good player. Squirrel White is dynamic. He'll be the gadget type guy. Ramel Keaton's a good player. Dante Thornton is a 6'5", 205-pound guy that they keep saying his GPS is as fast as they've ever had on their team. So I keep asking, the question this spring was, hey, does he have the juice that Hyatt did? Like, can he open it up like Hyatt did? And they're like, oh, yeah, like he can. So if he fills that role, that was my biggest worry, right?
Yeah,
they have
100%.
the Hyatt guy because they have good receivers, but they have the big body that can just go.
Well, Jalen used to scare the hell out of you as a DC. You want to scoot everybody back and it opens that run game up. But Jordan, great stuff, man. It's the reason we always love having you on here.
Good, boys.
Do a hell of a job, man. Love watching
Anytime.
you on Saturdays. I'm glad we're going to be able to watch you again on Saturdays now because football season's back. But anytime, man, it's a good.
The suit looks great too, man.
The suit is fire. I've got to be honest.
It's getting a little tight. I need to watch the diet. They put too many donuts in that green room.
Dude,
I
I'm
swear.
telling you.
Keep me away from them. I've been good.
They do it on
lately.
purpose.
Not you, bro.
No, I've been good
like
lately.
108
well, no, I've been on the Apocalypto diet. It's where I pay myself blue and just run around in the woods.
What have you been doing though?
Man, dude, not eating past 7.
Yeah, okay.
Not eating past 7 o'clock.
That's not
a couple only drinking on the weekends. You know, having a couple
limiting.
cold sodas on the weekends. No bread, no chips.
Do you eat carbs?
No dessert
at all?
Yes, a lot of meat, man. It's basically just been like meat and vegetables, and not snacking. Yeah. See, I went to France and they don't snack.
You thought this was an interview? We actually all wrote letters.
Mom, Oreo smoothie now.
So. About that.
Yeah. Thank you. It's like
we all
I've loved you for so long. Yeah.
Eat a cheeseburger.
I appreciate it, guys. Anyway, make sure you subscribe, and maybe you can catch me have another intervention for something probably way worse. We appreciate you.
YouTube, thanks so much for watching. Go ahead, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and let's catch you on the next one.